Already. This is the Todd Capital Millionaire Podcast, episode 37. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire. I'm the founder and the director of the Todd Capital Investment Club that now has over 175 members. I'm also the founder of Todd Ventures and Todd Acquisitions, which is our venture capital firm. Thank you all for tuning in. The purpose of this show is to share the successful stories of business it's to share the stories of successful African-American business investors and owners so that people can know that business and investing are the true keys to financial success and generational wealth. Today with us, we have Miss Tela Holcomb. It's somebody that I found on the internet, which is where I find everybody. But the beauty of the internet is that you can make these connections with people. So I reached out to her and she was willing to share her story, which I'm grateful for. A lot of people are anticipating this. I shared it on the internet and we had like 50 to 60 RTs and likes. People want to hear more about what you're doing and how you did what you did. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit more about who you are?
Well, you know my name, Tela Holcomb. I'm originally from Alabama, an Air Force veteran, and I got into the stock market almost 10 years ago and have since been able to what they call retire, which really sounds weird for me to say at 33. So now I trade full-time from home, as well as teach others how to trade the stock market for themselves.
So you said retire. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by retire is, other than basic utilities, I don't have any bills.
Wow. So how did you get to that point? How did you get to the point that you are retired?
A lot of saving, not really getting into the trap of, debt and the credit cards. Like, we do have credit cards, but we learned that, okay, let's pay that off. Let's pay off our house. Although a lot of people were like, no, don't pay off your house because of the tax benefits and things like that. But we thought, if we can pay off everything that people work their entire lives to do, if we can pay that off now, then that means we can stop working, right? So we set out to do that. We did a lot of saving. We didn't do a lot of, going out and spending on expensive things that we didn't need. So we really took a lot of care and thought into what we were spending our money on and made sure that paying down those debts were the number one priority.
That's awesome. It's funny. I tell my mom that if you can pay off your house, you can pay off your car, you're basically retired. You don't have to do anything. And so it's cool because I tell people like, oh yeah, she retired at this age. And so they're thinking like, oh, she's a multimillionaire. And I mean, maybe you are, but it sounds like what you did is you did one part investing, but another part just smart financial planning.
Right. Yes.
That's very cool. So,
and like you said, like you said, with when people hear retired, they think, multimillionaire, or that you're 67 years old getting a Social Security check. But retiring, like, it's what you can retire at or how much you need for retiring really depends on the lifestyle that you want to maintain or live going forward. And we're not living these lavish lifestyles, so we didn't need much to quote unquote retire.
Yeah. So what does retirement look like for you now?
I get up at 6, and that's just because I'm an early person. But I get up at 6 a.m. I'm ready to help my kid get ready for school, see her off. I play in the backyard with my dog or give him a walk, check my stocks twice a day, and I just chill. It's very chill. Almost boring.
So you were recently interviewed by, I think it was Glamour magazine?
Yes, I was.
And so what was that like?
That was, it was a little interesting, a little scary, because like I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I like never want to be in the spotlight. But it was, again, weird to kind of tell my story that I'm retired and say, how early I did it. But it was definitely empowering to know that I can tell my story to a lot of people on that, big of a scale and motivate them. Because ever since that article came out, I've had so many people reach out and say how encouraged they are, how motivated they are to get started. And just to see another Black female that has actually done it is inspiring to them, because they didn't think it was something that they could do, which is exactly what I thought when I first started.
Yeah. And I think that the problem with not thinking you can do it is if you don't think you can do it, you tend to not do it, even if it's possible. And so that's why I have this podcast, and that's why I wanted to get you on here and get other people who have done some great things, because if you have seen it done, then it can be repeated. Other people can do what you did. So to kind of talk about what you've done, you invest in the stock market, right?
Yes.
And so how did you get started investing?
Now, I like to say trade and invest, because there are differences there. So I do both. I trade and invest, but I don't day trade. I do what's called swing trading. Yeah. So instead of buying several stocks or several hundred stocks every single day, I'm buying, today and selling in a few days to a few weeks, as well as doing the long-term investing. So that's something I notice people don't do. Like, they're either doing one or the other. And so that's kind of what I do. But I got into it because I was working a job that it paid well. But it took a lot of my time, and it wasn't something that I saw myself doing forever. It was very draining. They would call me weekends, nights to fix things. So it took a lot of my family time, and I wanted something that I could still generate that kind of income without having to be away from my family or take time away from my family. And so I met this guy who was trading the stock market, and he was talking like he was, so excited about it and how much he was going to be able to make and how he had this plan to retire. And so it kind of piqued my interest. So I asked him about it, asked him about some of the books and courses that he had taken and read. And I started from there. So I just started buying books and taking courses, and it was just, I was hooked from there.
Mm-hmm. And so how long before you started seeing some success investing or trading?
I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of people think that it's going to be overnight success. And to be honest with you, I practiced for 9 months before I put real money out there. Simply because as I started learning this, I knew right then that I wanted that to replace my paycheck. I wanted it to replace the full-time job that I was working. And so I needed to put in the right amount of time that was going to allow for my skill set to grow for it to replace my 9 to 5. It's like a doctor. They're not going to go, to school for a month and then start operating on someone. They put in the time to really get good at what they're going to be doing. So I did. I took 9 months and to utilize a practice account before I started using real money. After that, it was about 6 months when I was truly, successful in seeing profits.
Mm-hmm. And so you're trading, you're looking for these swing trades. What exactly are you looking for?
The type of stocks I like to trade are stocks that cost $20 or more and that move 50 cents to $1 or more on a daily basis, because that will allow me to make, $1 or more in the next day to the next few weeks. All right. So I look for those kind of stocks. And I also, some of the people in my Facebook group have dubbed me the trend queen, because I also look for trends in stocks. Yeah. Stocks, I say they're kind of like creatures of habit. So some of them have a habit of doing the same movement year over year. So maybe every August, there's a certain stock that might go up. And so every year in August, I'm looking for that stock to go up. So kind of look for those different trends in stocks as well.
Yeah, we have somebody we interviewed on the show. His name is Al Pickett, and that's all he does is trend follow. Mm-hmm. He's using Forex, and he's retired on some beach right now.
Awesome.
So he's living the life. Let's see. So you talk about practicing trading. Where would somebody go to learn how to practice trading?
There are a couple of platforms out there that you can use for practicing. My favorite is Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade. I love their platform. It has, the charts to go with it, and you can put in a simulated amount that you want to start with. And it actually, it just gives you that real feeling as if you're trading the stock market.
Nice. So when you were kind of transitioning out of the 9-to-5, well, I guess, can you kind of tell the story of how that happened? Because I was on the side and you talked about how your goal was to set everything up and then leave the 9-to-5 and then start trading full time, but you didn't really have that option.
No, I didn't. So yeah, I had a business that I started, a government contracting business, and that was actually my goal while I was learning the stock market. And I was working for a government contractor. So they determined that because of everything that I knew, me having the business on the side was a conflict of interest. So they let me go one day, and that was kind of devastating because it wasn't according to my plan. My plan was to get that business off the ground, and then I would leave and be running that business full time. But they, fired me way before my plan, before my execution plan. And so I found myself at home still trying to get this side business off the ground and practicing. Well, the side business wasn't generating anything. It was a bunch of like writing proposals and waiting. So I found myself with a lot more time to actually practice. And so at that time I was actually real trading. So I found myself being able to trade more. And so I was trading. And by the time I realized, like, I was making my paycheck from that full-time job already through trading. Yeah. So that was it. I was like, why am I bothering with anything else if I'm making my paycheck? So that's kind of how I stumbled upon like, oh, this works and I can actually make it happen.
Do you think there was some sort of like a hunger that developed inside of you and you had to make it happen?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was one of those, this has to work. And I'm not going back. I refuse to go back to, a 9-to-5. So it was that drive that like, this has got to work. So I'm going to make it work.
It's tough sometimes when you have something that's safe and what's good and it's a good paying job. It's like the golden handcuffs. It's like, man, like you could have maybe been a successful independent trader before if you got fired sooner, but you didn't. Yeah. But
I always say that was the kick out of the nest that I really needed and didn't realize it. But yeah.
So what are your goals going forward now that, you don't necessarily have to do anything? What are you aiming for?
I am aiming just to get the word out more, to educate more. And for those that are willing to learn how to do this for themselves, I'm just going to educate those that want to do it for themselves as a full-time job like I do. I have my program for that. So I'm just, in there pouring into all of those individuals to help them trade their 9-to-5 as well. I don't know what number that is, like how many people or, income wise, like for me, the income isn't important as far as that piece goes, because I know I always have the income coming from the stock market from my trading. So.
Interesting. So when you first started out, how did you get the money to start investing?
I budgeted. So like I said, I was practicing. So during that whole time that I was practicing, I made sure I put into my budget to set aside like $200-$300 every month to put into a trading account so that I would have money when I was comfortable and confident in trading.
So were you cutting back in other areas, just making that sacrifice to make sure you had the excess money?
Yes, because at that time we were, like I said, trying to pay off the house and the cars because we're going to pay all this stuff off so that we can just be done. And when we were cutting back and paying things off, so paid off credit card, that freed up money that I could just put into a trading account and just sit there and wait until, I was ready to use real money.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you pay off your house so quick?
Well, luckily we had, like I said, good job with the government contracting. So I just noticed a lot of people that we worked with, we get these big paychecks and they lived up to the max of those big paychecks. Me coming from, Air Force paycheck to that, like, I knew that I could live off a lot less. So that's what I, kept myself at, is what is the minimum that I need to live off of without it being like a crazy life. So that gave us a buffer, that gave us income that we, wasn't really doing anything with, or that we were saving. So we started putting that into paying off our home instead of using it to get further in debt.
Yeah. Interesting. It's interesting because it makes a lot of sense, but so many people don't do it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to show off. Everybody wants to have the big car, and they don't want the freedom. And if
Yeah.
they make that choice to create freedom and then live life after they've created that freedom, not only do they benefit, but your child's going to benefit. His children are going to benefit. So I think that's huge. I think more people need to kind of understand that, and people who are watching this to kind of, that's one thing I pushed on my website. I'm more so, we invest in stocks and real estate, but it's like long-term investing. But
Yes.
I've been exposed to you. Maybe I need to do some more trading. Because we're looking at some gains we have. And to give you an example, like we have some gains in like Visa that have done pretty well, or Netflix that have done pretty well, but it's just sitting there at like a 25% gain. And so it's like, what do we do with this? Do we just hope it continues to go higher, or do we sell it and then look for another opportunity? What would you do in that situation?
Well, I would first revisit, it sounds like it's a group, like it's a pool. I would first revisit what's the purpose of that money. So that's something I always ask people. They're like, well, what should I buy? Well, what is your goal? Is this bucket a long-term bucket? Then leave it as a long-term bucket. So in Trade Your 9 to 5, I teach them to have 3 different trading accounts, and each account has a different purpose. You have your long-term, you have your trading, and you have your income. And we never mix the two. Mixing the two is like trying to go on a diet in the food court. Like, you're bound to fail. It's not going to work. So we separate the accounts. So for that case, if that bucket of money is meant for long-term investing, leave it as long-term investing. If you all agree that you want to try to make some short-term gains, then create a separate bucket where you break off some money into, and that's where you can start doing those shorter-term trades, like buy one month, sell the next month, or buy and then sell once you've had a predetermined profit amount. That would be the way I would go. But I wouldn't mix it in that account that you guys already mentally have set, like, this is for long-term. Split it off if you want to, kind of try something different.
I have 2 questions for you. The first question is, what do you do when you enter a trade that you're kind of hoping is going to work out and it turns against you? And the next question is, how do you determine your profit amount? How do you determine how much money you want to make in that stock?
Okay, so I'll start with the second question. How do I determine what my profit amount is? I look at how much the stock moves. Again, I keep stocks for, days to weeks. So I will look at how much has this stock moved over the past few days to few weeks, right? And I'm generally working with a list of stocks of companies that I trade all the time. So I kind of already have an idea of how they move. So if I know I'm going to buy this stock and I'm going to keep it for the next, 2 weeks, I know the stock moves about $1 a week, I can ideally get a $2 profit out of it. So I will set my profit point at $1.75 because I like to, have that buffer. Just because I know I can make 2 doesn't mean I should be greedy and try to make 2. So I'll probably set it at $1.50, $1.75, and that's my profit goal. Now, if it doesn't do what I expect it to do, then I revisit my trading plan. So before I even buy the stock, I lay out a trading plan that says, what is my profit point? How much am I trying to make out of this stock? And then how much am I willing to lose if it doesn't work? Yeah. So I write that down. Is earnings coming up? Any type of news or anything I know about that company? What's going on? How am I feeling? Am I feeling overly excited? Am I feeling greedy? Like all those things I write down on a trading plan, on a worksheet that I have, and I stick to that. So the minute the stock isn't working and it hits my loss limit, like the amount that I'm willing to lose, then I'm out. I'll figure out what happened and why it didn't work later, but I get out with at least some of my money intact.
Interesting. It's funny, I have like these compound questions, but the next question is, this huge stock market, 500 stocks, more than 500. How do you get to 20 that you just kind of follow?
Honestly, I started with companies that I already know and use. And me, I'm a purse lady. All right. So my first stock was Coach. I'm purse and I'm into tech stuff. So it was Coach and Best Buy. So I started there and then I branched out. And one day I was in the shower, like, who makes this soap? And then like my car, like, who makes the tires on it? I just kind of branched out from there. And really, as you practice, you'll start to find stocks that you like best. You like, maybe the amount that they move, because some people can't stomach the way that Google and Amazon move. They like move way too much. Or maybe Best Buy might be too slow for some people. But you just, as you practice, you'll start to learn the stocks that you like. Yeah. You like their movement and their prices, in your range, and you just kind of stick to them.
Yeah, that's cool. I like investing in what you know.
Yes.
That gives you something like a competitive advantage over people who might not know it that well. I mean, as a consumer, you know what they're coming out with. You know what people like. You know what you like. So it gives you that extra edge that could potentially help you kind of squeak out that extra profit.
Exactly. And as a new person, it also motivates you because you do feel like you know what you're looking at. And so that I always recommend starting with what you know, because it will motivate you to stay in it. Because some of the stuff, like if you had to start with biotech, and you don't know a thing about biotech, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm in over my head. But for me, starting with purses, I was like, man, if I can make, another $100, I can go buy me another purse, so that motivated me to keep going.
Yeah, and it helps you sift through the news, because I had a cousin a long time and she said, hey, should I buy Victoria's Secret stock? And like me, I know nothing about Victoria's Secret, but she probably knows the ins and outs of Victoria's Secret. So as new things are coming to light, as they're talking about new product lines, or they're talking about them potentially merging with another company, she's going to know that information better than I would, just because she has that advantage we just talked about. So that's pretty interesting. In the conversation, hold on one second.
Okay.
I forgot I was talking about in the conference room, so everybody else comes into the conference room too.
It's okay.
So it sounds like what you do, because I think a lot of times people will separate it between like technical analysis, where they're just looking at the charts, and then fundamental analysis, where they're actually like analyzing the balance sheet, all the financials, all the news that comes out. And for a while, I used to think you had to do either or, but it sounds like what you do is both, where you kind of look at the chart, but then you also you're kind of keeping your ear for the news as well, or you're just strictly technical?
Well, for my long-term, my legacy account, I am looking at some of the fundamentals, but for the most part, I'm technical.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people that I follow that are like independent traders or technical analysts, where they just look at the charts.
Yeah.
You think that's just more helpful short-term than?
Yeah, I feel like it's more, and it depends. Like, depends on what time frame you're looking at. So most of them, they are trying to make a short-term profit. So they are looking at shorter charts. But like I said, on the legacy side, which is my long-term account, and in there, I teach my students how to look at the chart still for those stocks, but they're just not buying as often. But they can also look at, okay, does it have dividends? What are their sales like? What is their debt like? So we're still looking at that. We're just not looking at it, I guess, on a constant basis, because our legacy stocks, we're only buying those a few times a year, and we're not selling them, because they're like years to decades is when we plan on, how long we plan on owning them.
So what would you say was your best trade?
Ooh, my best trade was a trade on Disney, where I made $12,000. Now, what made it my best trade is not the dollar amount. And I tell people all the time, like, even I had a trade last week that I shared with my students in Trade 95, where I made a profit, but I told them this was a horrible trade, and I showed them why. But Disney was a great trade because I followed my trading plan and executed it to a T, and it was profitable. Like it was the best, laid out plan that I could have possibly had. And so that's what made it the best trade that I've had. The profit just made it,
Nice.
even better.
When you're laying out your plan, your trade plan, what are some things you're looking for, and what are some things that what go into that plan, basically?
Okay. So one of the first things I'm looking for is are there any trends coming up? Like, do any stocks have any trends? So I have what's called a trend calendar. So all these trends and stocks that I'm finding, I actually put them on a calendar. So I don't have to, refind all these trends. I don't have to guess what a stock is doing. So I have a calendar that I'll check and see if any trends are coming up. That's my first thing. If there's trends coming up, I'll look on my chart to see, it says the trend is for the stock to go up. On the chart, is it indicating that the stock is going up? If it is, I'll put it on a watch list for the week where I will begin to, watch that stock throughout the week to find an entry point. From there, I'll check my just running list of stocks that I watch. And I'll look to see, are they starting to enter an uptrend or a downtrend? And if they are, I'll add them to a list. So it's really actually a quick process now that I'm so used to it, but I just run down the list and see. The first thing is the chart indicating that the stock is, going up or down? And if it's not, I just keep going.
Yeah.
And I just kind of pare that bigger list down to just a few that I watch every week. And yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's like you created a system.
Yep.
That's the goal. So I have a few more questions. Do you invest in other things outside of the stock market?
No.
Really? And why is that?
I just haven't. This has just seemed to be my my strong suit, so I've kind of stuck to it. I have been interested in investing in real estate, but other than that, no. I haven't ventured into it yet. I've just stuck with stocks and options.
That's cool. I think it's cool that it's you stay in your lane. You stay in what you know. And although it's you don't want to chase the shiny objects. Everybody's talking about real estate right now, but it's if you were doing well in your lane, then why leave your lane?
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot of real estate investors, and they always talk about why they don't like the stock market. They'll say, "Oh, well, you don't have control in the stock market, or you never know what's going to come in the stock market." But to see, and it's so funny because then I hear your story. You are successful in doing what they aren't successful at doing it. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's exactly what you said it's finding your lane and kind of sticking to it. Just I have several different techniques that I teach, and I tell them you have these techniques to choose from, but each of us is going to have ones that we like and do better than others. And that's just is what it is. And the ones that you do well, that's what you stick to, because that's where it's going to make you the money. So for someone that's, good at real estate, if, transitioning into stock market just doesn't work out for them, why sit here and lose money trying to force something to work when it's just not for you? Stick with real estate and, build an empire there.
Yeah. So it's not either or, it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So what are some obstacles that you had to overcome, and how did you get over those obstacles?
I had to overcome first not having seen an example or having seen someone, when I first started, I didn't know anyone in my family, or I didn't know anyone that was in the stock market. So that was the first thing. It's okay, I don't know anyone who's done this and been successful at it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone that looks like me, Black, female, that was trading the stock market. So I had to get past feeling like this wasn't a place that I was supposed to be, or that it was something that I couldn't do.
So how did you do that? Just to kind of
I think it has been instilled in me since I was little not instilled in me, but something my mom used to say to me when I was little that always made me, anytime I come into a situation where I'm either told, oh, you're not going to be able to do something, or I felt like that, I was like, I'm going to make this happen. So when I was little, she would always tell me that I couldn't do something, because I couldn't do something that my brother did because I was a girl and he was a boy. Mm-hmm. And like from, that age, I always said, I can always do something. It doesn't matter because I'm a girl. So that has showed up in so many areas in my life where, one, I went into the military, picked, that's an all male area, picked a career in the military that's all male, fixing airplanes, and then the stock market, which is, primarily male. So I think it's like something ingrained in me that's like, go show that you can. Just because you're a female doesn't mean you can't succeed in this area. So I think it was just something inside me that was just like, okay, I'm gonna show everybody that it's possible.
Nice.
The other hurdle I will say is greed. Greed is definitely one of those hurdles that people will experience when they get into, trading the stock market. That was something and thank goodness I practiced. And this is why I'm so adamant about practicing when you first start, because you can learn your emotions and how you are with your money and with trading. But I noticed right away that I would get greedy whenever I had a winning trade. So I would like make some money, and then I would be like, oh man, I'm made for this. Like, let me jump back out there. And I wouldn't plan. I wouldn't think about it. I was just being greedy and trying to make some more money. Mm-hmm. And every time the stock market would like smack me down, and I would have to recoup and be like, okay, what happened? And, after a few times I realized, okay, I'm getting greedy. I'm, being a little arrogant, and I need to go back to the basics and go back to what works. So, that was a matter of, implementing like, okay, when I do have a big win and I start feeling like I want to jump back in, okay, it's time to shut my computer off, go enjoy my day with my family, or, do something, but step away from the market when I start feeling like that.
Yeah. Interesting. Is your family a part of your business, or do they do their own thing?
They do their own thing. They do their own thing.
Let's see. So what tips do you have for people that are looking to win in the stock market?
My number one tip, get a practice account. Like, the best way to learn is hands-on. And with a practice account, you're going to be able to learn all that. You're going to learn about yourself, about the market, and most importantly, how to buy and sell, like where you're supposed to click to buy, what it looks like when that order is filled, what it looks like when you're making money, losing money. The best way to do that is through a practice account. That is the best tool that you can, get yourself.
Yeah, very cool. Any other tips for people?
And start with what you know. Like we were saying earlier, start with stocks that you know. You may not always stick with those stocks, but they are definitely a beginning place. And like we said, it will help keep you motivated. And you can always branch out from there. As your skills grow, you'll learn that you may like other stocks. So you'll put new stocks on your list, old ones will drop off, and you'll just end up curating a list that you learn to know, companies that you really know, and you know how the stock moves, and you'll get to a point where you can hear some news on the radio and you know how it's going to affect your list of stocks.
Absolutely. So can you tell the people, this is kind of wrapping it up here, but about your Trade Your 9 to 5 company, what you teach people, what they'll learn, and where they can find you?
Yes. So Trade Your 9 to 5 is where I teach my full system of how to trade and invest in the stock market for a full-time company with the possibility of replacing your 9 to 5. Do you have to replace your 9 to 5 with it? No, you don't have to quit your job, but it just gives you that freedom, that option to know that you're working because you want to and not because you have to. In there, I teach you how to do short-term trading from, buy stock one day, sell it in days to weeks. And then I also teach you how to look for trends in stocks, how to trade options so that you can make money when the stock market is going up and when the stock market is going down, and how to create that legacy account of long-term stocks that you can keep for years to decades with the possibility of passing down within your family.
Nice. And where can people find more about that program and just you in general?
You can find more about the program at tradeyour9to5.com, and you can get educated on stocks and trading on my website, which is telaholcomb.com, or on my YouTube, which is telaholcomb.com/YouTube.
Awesome. 2 quick questions. We ask everybody these questions. What's your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite book. Does it have to be a stock market book? Well, I'll keep it on topic. My favorite stock market book is Turtle Trader, or The Complete Turtle Trader.
What's your favorite book? Just because I'm curious.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I haven't. My favorite book that I've read, I'm going to say recently, because I'm not of top all, but my favorite book that I've read recently was Trevor Noah's book, and I can't even think of the name of it right now.
I forgot the name of it too, but I've seen that.
Yeah, I like that book, Trevor Noah's book.
I forget what it's called. Very cool. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth to me means setting your family up for financial success. So having a child come into your family knowing that they're already set financially, that's wealth. That's wealth.
I like it. I like it because it shifts the goal from you to
yes.
us.
Yeah.
By taking care of others, you end up taking care of yourself anyway.
Yep.
So this has been episode number 37. It was a great conversation. We learned a lot, not just about investing, but personal finance. So thank you for that. If anybody wants to join either of our clubs or just work with us in general, you can email us at info@capitaltodd.com. The website is capitaltodd.com, and I'm on the internet at Todd Millionaire. This is Charles Oglesby signing off.